morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are. Thank you for joining. At CIQ, we're focused on powering the next generation of software infrastructure, leveraging the capabilities of cloud, hyperscale, and HPC. From research to the enterprise, our customers rely on us for the ultimate Rocky Linux, Werewolf, and Apptainer support escalation. We provide deep development capabilities and solutions, all delivered in the collaborative spirit of open source.
Okay, we have arrived. Zane Hamilton, what's going on, man? Oh, nope. Is it me?
No, it was me.
There you
I
go.
hit mute whenever they hit unmute. I messed it up.
Come on, man.
It's been too long. I'm out of practice. I haven't done this in a while. I don't feel like it's been a while.
It's been a while since you've been around here consistently week to week
It's
with
true.
us, but we are very glad to have you back. You are one of my favorite people in this room.
Thank you. In this room. Yes, that's fantastic. Very small audience. So how could it
My
get
mom
better?
used to always say to me, she was like, you know what? You are the person I love the most named Rose. I'm like, okay.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Makes me feel
I
so
really
good.
appreciate that. All the other roses, sorry, I'm first in mom's eyes. So thank you for being here, everybody. And make sure that you give us a like and a subscribe. We are live on YouTube and very glad to be here. Today, we're going to be talking about CentOS, which, again, I know, but like, what's crazy? Well, first of all, it's crazy that we're still talking about this because
That's what I mean. Again.
We just in case you guys missed the memo, 4 years ago, 4.5 ish, right? Because wasn't it
For what? Which part?
December? Huh?
Which part? December
That we were
2019 is when
notified
they
that
announced. Yes,
CentOS was
December of
going end of
2019.
life. Yes. I'm sorry. Repeat that date.
December of 2019.
2019.
Actually, probably could find the actual date. Hold on.
So I'm going to go with the 20th.
No, I'm sorry. It was December 8th, 2020.
Okay, so it was 2020 and it was the 8th. Okay. Now it's going down in the memory banks. So we were all notified, and some of us didn't quite get that memo because that's a pretty significant number of years ago, right? This is 4 years ago now. So what that means is that, and I think sometimes people didn't totally understand what it means for an operating system to be end of lifed.
Unfortunately,
right? So give us like a basic gist, Zane, of like what that means for an operating system to go end of life.
So I think there's two different things that we've got to talk about here, because when they made the decision to end this, everybody had kind of made the shift to CentOS 8 because it had a 10-year runway. So it's supposed to be good until like 2029. So people that had migrated or started to migrate from CentOS 7 to CentOS 8 thought they were going somewhere safe. When they made this announcement, they end-of-lifed CentOS 8 and moved it to CentOS Stream in December 31st of 2021, I believe is when it was. So they moved you to an upstream version of CentOS called CentOS Stream. So they moved it from downstream of RHEL to upstream, so between Fedora and RHEL, which is not where it had been in the past. And it was more of a development line of that version of Linux, and it would continue to get updates. And that caused some people some frustrations. They didn't do that with 7. 7 they left as is, and that one started in 2014. So it actually went the entire 10 years of its life cycle. On July 31st this year, or I'm sorry, July 1st of this year, it went away. There was no more support, no more CVEs. They actually started pulling the mirrors down off of the internet, so you couldn't even get the old packages. Obviously, there are ways you can still get those. People made copies. Don't freak out.
We have a
copy. We have a copy of it. Yes,
we have a copy.
Of course. If you're still looking for a copy, let us know. What that actually did is surprisingly enough, there were people who did not know it was going away that came to do an update in July. And when they went to do the update, it failed because it couldn't find the repos. They stopped development on CentOS. There was no more active development of any kind, no more CVEs, nothing. Like, it is just stopped. And I'm a little surprised that people didn't know this was coming, but we've had a lot of people come to us that did not know this. They didn't know that CentOS was going away. And that's kind of one of the things that we as CIQ foresaw. We saw that this was going to happen. We had talked to a lot of people that surprisingly did not know. Different conferences and things. We would start to have this conversation to the customers who told us they had CentOS 7 and asking, what do you plan on doing? And some of them were surprised. Like, I have no plan. It's, what was it, August? Or not August, we were having this conversation. Sorry, March. March, we were having this conversation with a large set of people, and we're surprised how many people were telling us they didn't have a plan because they didn't know. So we at CIQ are continuing on doing CVE 7, 8, and 9 or CentOS 7, 9 for an amount of time into the future. So that if you are on it and you didn't have a plan and now you're in trouble, you can come to us and we can help you.
So, thank you for that whole explanation. That
Lots of
actually,
words.
yeah, but it makes a little bit more sense now because I was just talking to a potential customer yesterday, and they were saying that they've got some servers on CentOS 6, they've got
Oh.
some servers on CentOS 7, and they have some servers still on CentOS 8. And I was a little confused. I'm like, what do you mean CentOS 8? Like, who is still on CentOS 8? But some people are.
There are people that are on CentOS Stream 8, and CentOS Stream 9. Those still exist, but they do get updates quite regularly, and they're forced updates. So it's not like it's not like it used to be where you can stay locked in time. If you're running Stream and it's connected to the internet, it's going to update. It's going to stay as current as it can. There's ways to turn it off, but the idea is it stays current. It's not like the downstream version where you're getting the regression testing, whatever security hardening takes place past development and productionization of a tool. That's not happening in Stream anymore. It's a development branch. I mean, you can look at it that way. It's still downstream of Fedora, which is the development branch, but it's a little more curated and a little more closer to what RHEL is going to be, but it still has work to be done. So you've kind of lost that. And there are people that are running that and they're having success. And there are people who are running it that it's just a little bit too much churn and change for them to feel stable. So it's not what a lot of people running enterprise Linux would call production ready. It's not a production tool. So yes, you can still be running it. Now, if you had CentOS 8 running before and you still have a copy of the original, you could still be running it and just never patch it. And you will fail every security scan ever, but you could do that.
Yeah. I have a feeling that is actually what they're doing.
If you're running 6, there's definitely a potential for you doing that, yes. Because 6 has been dead for a long time.
Yeah. So how many people, I mean, I think we have a little chart graph. I don't know if you have
I have it open, yes. Hold on just a second.
So it's actually pretty cool when you think about how many people across the world were using CentOS. A lot of people. And so of those people who were using, I think it was like, what was it? 50 or 60% of Linux users had CentOS somewhere in their environment.
I think there were different views of that. I think conservatively, I think you could say it was at least 50%. I think because a lot of this stuff wasn't connected to the internet, you could probably guess it was even higher than that. It was very high. There was a majority of things running on Linux in the world were running on CentOS. I'm still trying to get my screen to share here. Give me a second.
Okay, cool. And so of all of those users, some people have done some graphs and charts. And again, numbers are probably not exact for a variety of reasons. But we came across this curated information of how many people are still on CentOS. Now, remember, as of July 1st, 2024, it's now past. It's now several months past. CentOS 7 is no longer getting any love, any attention, any work. There's no security patches or vulnerabilities being scanned and looked at unless you go with a company like ours who is doing that work for you.
Yes.
Oh, that is so cool.
So I think the important thing to point out about this graph is this data is coming from visual effects. So think media and entertainment. It's visual effects, mostly on the visual effects creators' workstations. So is where this data came from. It was like 67 studios that they had done some polling and to find out what are they using today, kind of what are you going to in the future. There's been a big push in M&E to find a stable, centralized thing that all of the studios can agree on because it makes it easier on the actual end tool makers. Think Adobe and those tools like that to certify on one thing and then be able to pick whatever they want to underneath it. This is what came out of that. So there's still a bunch of people that are running CentOS 7 as we expected. But if you look, Rocky 8 and 9 are kind of the ones that are coming up. And Rocky 9 is the one that's probably going to be the most prevalent because it's got the longer runway. But we have seen a lot of excitement around running the visual effects suite on top of Rocky 9. And that's really what this is depicting. And I think this is, while this is for one specific industry in one place, I think this holds true for the most part for most other industries as well. Maybe the shift between Rocky 8 and 9 is a little more split evenly, but this is kind of what we're seeing. Good stuff.
This is pretty cool. I think one of the reasons why I really like talking about, CentOS end of life is because we have a solution, right? Like, it's not always fun to talk about things when you're like, well, I mean, maybe, I don't know. Oh, we have a question here. Oh, Art A, what's up? Sounds like Bridge is a good choice if you want to keep using CentOS 7.
Yes.
With a
it's good choice.
caveat, right? So we did call it Bridge Art for a reason. Thank you for highlighting that. And the idea is that we really want to encourage people to not hang out on a dead operating system. So yes, there's not active work being done on it. Right? So there's a difference between it's actively being maintained and worked on, and hey, when there is a security issue or a bug or something that needs to be fixed, then that fix is then backported. So you want to expand on that a little bit?
Sure. So exactly what you just said. We are trying to encourage people to get off of the old thing. I mean, it's not a great idea to stay on something that's this old. I mean, it's been 10 years now. It's probably time to move on. There are pieces of software that are certified on this. We all understand. We hear the stories. It's difficult to move. We don't have the time, don't have the resources. Maybe the source code's gone. The tool that I'm tied my entire business to is not certified on anything else. It's going to take some time. Yeah, okay, we get it. That's why we created Bridge, but it is not here to be quite the crutch that I think some people would like it to be. This is give you some time to make your plan and get off of CentOS, not give you runway to continue down this road and hope that something changes in the next 2 to 3 years that you can still stay on it. We highly advise you to move on. At some point in time, it's not going to pass security scanners anymore. It's just not. 14-year-old technology, 13, 14-year-old technologies, it's just not going to be what it needs to be. So make a plan. Let us help you.
Make a plan and let us help you. So we are committed to 3 years as of the July 1st of 2024, correct?
Correct.
Yeah.
For CVE 7, 8, and 9.
CVEs of, yeah. So that's actually kind of interesting. Like I mean, it makes sense to me because we repeat this a lot over the last, several months as we're explaining it and understanding it. But there's actually a little bit of confusion around some people not totally understanding. So where is this score coming from? This score of 7, 8, 9, 10?
So there's several different places that it comes from that we get it from. The biggest ones that we pay attention to are from the actual scanners themselves. So Nessus, Qualys, what's the other one? There's several of them out there. So they're the ones that do the scan. Tenable, there you go. They identify which ones, what CVEs, how critical they are. They give it a score, and that's where we get ours from. There's a few other places out there that do this. We try to watch all of them to see, just to make sure we're correlating and getting the right data from the right, so that make sure we're covering them all. But that's the ones that we watch the most, because most of our clients, that's what they're using to do their scans.
Yeah. And so who gives the number?
Depending on the criticality. So that is up to the people doing the scans of how critical it is. Is it something that's super vulnerable? If something that's on your system, they can steal everything and get further into your network, and they make that decision on the scoring.
Yeah. So I'm sure that you've had some of your customers come to you as well and say, well, actually, this one feels like a 7, 8, 9, 10 to me. And
Yes.
I'd rather the number be different. So what can we do?
So when it comes to that, that's a conversation that it comes up more often than you would assume. So just because it scores something in the world thinks it scores a certain score, there are pieces of software that are more important to other customers. And that's where we can help you, but it's going to be a one-off case. It's going to end up being a professional services. It's going to be time and materials. You pay us by the hour. We'll scope it, see what it takes. The other part of this is some of it is old enough that some of these problems might not be fixable. So that's something else that you need to know when you're going into these is most of them can be, but there are going to be some that it's just not something you can fix with the current operating system. It makes it even more important to move.
So
Scary,
shameless.
huh?
I'm sorry.
Scary, huh?
I mean, yes and no, right? I mean, it's kind of like anything in tech. There is choices.
Choices. There are choices. Yes.
Exactly. You always have choices. So speaking of choices, one of the choices for as smooth-ish as possible migration, shameless plug is, I don't know if you can see my shirt,
Of course.
Rocky Linux. There you
Me
go.
too.
That's awesome. So yeah, some people actually don't know too. So they reach out to us because they, suddenly somewhere along the way they went, uh-oh. Right? Like, I
Oops.
need
I think it's more of an oops than an uh-oh. It's an oops.
oops,
Mhm.
should have known. Maybe if I had some automation, I could have
Maybe.
been notified of this at some point. That's a different subject. But so then all of a sudden they start doing some research, right? Like, who out there is doing this? Like, how can I get some help? Because having somebody dedicated to that is an incredible task, right? It takes a level of expertise and dedication and focus and willingness to just sit there and do the thing that not everyone really has the time or energy or effort for. So CIQ as a resource for our customers. It was actually asked of us. This was not something that we were like, yay, we're going to do it. No, we support Rocky. We assumed 4 years ago that when Rocky was created, and we're one of the founding members of our founders of Rocky, and they kind of do their own thing. They're amazing, open source, wonderful. Thank you, RESF, for being, so solid out there as an open source operating system. And to us, it's like, oh, easy transition, right? Like, cool, you have an option. Here's Rocky, go do it. But a lot of people did not do that and have gotten stuck and are asking questions. And as we're having these conversations with people about CentOS, which is like the move, right? It's the fire under the butt to do something and give us a call. They actually don't even know what Rocky is, or that CIQ provides support and customization and migration help for Rocky Linux. So that's actually been a really cool way to get people in the door and educated on what we do.
Absolutely. I mean, we hear that all the time, that just because even if they knew about Rocky, there wasn't a plan, it's hard, they don't know what to do. That's something we can help you with. Migrations are not easy. Uh, one of the things we get asked quite a lot is, can I use a tool like Leap or Elevate? While those tools have their place and they are great in some cases, not the safest choice. So we recommend to do a net new build of an operating system and then bring your application over. To Rose's point earlier, there are other things we could talk about helping to do that when it comes to automation, configuration management, ways to go about that from enterprise strategy in the way that you handle infrastructure and migrations and planning for the future. But as you're going through this, most of the people that we talk to will have started down this road. They won't have the resources or the knowledge of even what the applications were, because people leave, code gets lost, and they need help. And that's certainly something we can help you with. And we would love to talk to you about. It is a daunting task. It is not an easy thing. It does take time, resources, understanding of the application. Some of these people that are going through this exercise now are looking to actually move it to the cloud. If I'm going to move, I might as well go ahead and move to the cloud. And that is something we can help you with as well.
So just curious, your estimation of like a typical medium-sized company, how many human resources do you think that they have available that are maintaining the compute environment in relationship to the operating system?
It really depends. So if we're going to stick in medium-sized business, and what's funny about that is the way people define the size of business, medium can actually be really large, it can be really small. So on average, I'm going to say there's around five that in a medium-sized company to larger companies, it's usually five. So that's kind of their entire job, is to maintain and keep that infrastructure running. I have seen some companies that are much, much larger than medium that have less. And I've seen some that are smaller that have more. It really depends. But I would say five is a pretty good average.
Okay. Well, I'm just envisioning those 5 people at the multitudes of medium-sized and large and small businesses, and I'm just sending my appreciation out to you and my deep thoughts as more and more people, as we're like now into September. So it's like several months now that, I mean, I think that we have completed dozens of fixes and patches for Bridge already.
Correct. Yes.
And there are more on the way, which means that if you are still running CentOS 7, you have at least multiple dozens of CVE patches and fixes that are just hanging out, not being addressed.
That are important.
It's
Because there's 7, 8, or 9. They're important. You should probably take a look.
It's important, and we should probably take a look. Absolutely. So we would love to help you. We don't necessarily like go in and do all of the migration work for you. I think that's maybe, oh, here we have a question. Cool. Hi, John B. Sysadmin here. Okay, you are the one receiving the love and appreciation. I've heard plenty of stories of leadership dragging their heels on making a migration decision.
Yes. I had that conversation with a very large organization. What is today? Thursday, Monday, that have about 15,000 CentOS machines left behind, and they haven't made a decision yet. So it is something that we are surprising. I assumed there would be a lot. I assumed it would be a smaller number of machines, but some of the stuff we're finding is truly someone trying to make a decision on what the next phase looks like, and they've just waited too long. So now they're having to make bigger decisions that are looking further down the road that are going to cost them more money short term to try to save money long term. Sometimes it's working, sometimes it's not. There are some people that are doing lift and shift moves of just CentOS to other places to get off of old servers. It's a little bit of a mess. And yes, I have seen that from a leadership perspective of paralysis through analysis, trying to decide what the next move should be so they just don't move.
Yeah, that's a big one because they don't want to ever have to do this again. And so they're like, okay, what is going to ensure that? But again, you have choices. So there's always a give and a take on what is the most important for your company and your business at this time, and then of course thinking long term. So let's talk a little bit about I mean, obviously, we want to talk to you about Bridge. We want to support you. But again, it's called Bridge because migration plan in place is important for you and everybody. And so we don't want to just leave that as like, yeah, we'll support you for, 3 years on Bridge, and because it's already been more than that since we got the original announcement. So we know that that 3 years is going to go by like that, and we're all going to go, uh-oh, what happened? So let's just talk a little bit about why Rocky. Maybe start off actually, Zane, if you would. What are the hallmarks of a stable open source project?
Good community. I think it's going to be the community is always the part that's going to make a good open, stable open source project, is having people who are in it passionate about what they're building, and then having a lot of people there to see it. I mean, there are great projects out there that have 1 or 2 people. I'm not saying they all have to be huge. They don't. It helps when you have more people helping and more people with their eyes on it, and the community is invested in it, because they're more interested in finding the bugs. They're more interested in putting out a stable and solid product. So having a large community like the Rocky community is not only important, and especially in an operating system, it's a necessity. You have to have a lot of people looking at it because there's so much involved in an operating system. And if you just had a few people, not only would it drag, it would be far less secure. Its release cycle would be far slower than what it actually is. So I think that, to me, a good community that's passionate about what they're building. That's what makes a great community to me.
Thank you for sharing that. I definitely see the RASF, the Rocky Linux community, highlighting every single one of those, like tick with a star, tick with a star, tick with a star. And it really actually does come from the passion of the CentOS community, quite frankly. I mean, yeah, a company kind of took it over and made decisions that everyone went, what? But the community itself was strong and solid and awesome. And so when there was that announcement at a business level to not support it any longer, it was that community that said, we can do this. Right? And
Absolutely.
right. And
the
then
big part of it was a 20-year-old community. I mean, you had a massive community that had a vested stake in this to begin with. It just got to literally turn from one side of their desk to the other and just keep going and
right.
fix everything that they thought was wrong with the original. I mean, everybody makes mistakes. Every project has issues that you would like to fix. And if you were doing it over again, it gives you an opportunity to fix a lot of those. The RASF had that chance. There's been a lot of things that are different this time than CentOS to make sure that what happened to CentOS doesn't happen to Rocky. So I think that there were a lot of great things as a part of that. While it's painful for the community to go through it, it's also been great.
Yeah. Agree. So again, a big shout out to the Rocky community. If you guys have
Absolutely.
questions about that. Questions about the stability of Rocky, because we get that kind of often when people are considering which OS to go to, and there just isn't really the time, especially with this fire under their butt, or like the calmness to kind of understand the history of Rocky and the stability of it. Rocky is now 4,
It's hard to
right?
believe. It's
Yeah,
4.
it's
8.10
awesome.
is out. 8.10 being out to me, whenever this started, thinking about getting to 8.10 seemed like light years away. It's
Yeah,
not. It's here. It's
it's
now.
it's definitely happening, and 8.10 is going to go on for the next 5 years.
5 years. Yes, so I
So
don't have to mess with all of my VMs anymore. They can all just stay.
just hang out right there. Exactly. And then 9 dot. I think we're on 9.4
4.
right now. Yep.
Yes.
So 9 is out, 9.4 is rocking. And apparently from that graph, there's way more people on 9.4 than even 8, which is kind of cool because it's got a long life ahead of us. We've got several years on the 9.
It's 2 years newer. People are trying to buy the 2 years. They're trying to get into the 2030 timeframe without having to make a giant move again.
Right.
I think what
However,
they're
the
all
move,
really wanting is they all want to retire and not have to do this again. We have one customer, I've heard her say that many times. I never want to do this again. I'm going to retire before I have to. So shout out to Andrea.
yeah, I know who you're talking about. Well,
Yes, you
we'll
do.
keep where she works,
She's
a
awesome.
mystery, but yes, she is awesome. Shout out to you, girlfriend. That's awesome. Okay, so is there anything else that we have left out? We talked about CentOS, the end of life. It has long passed. We talked about CIQ Bridge, which we are doing the CVEs and patches and backporting for you. There isn't really support, around it because the operating system is done. We are just keeping it alive for you so that you have some time to migrate. We talked a little bit about CIQ also having some automation help and support to help you with the migration. We're happy to do that. So love to chat with you about that. And then to have CIQ Bridge, you do not need to be migrating to Rocky.
No.
We recommend it.
Prefer it.
We prefer it.
Not a requirement, though.
Not a requirement. We can certainly help you with it in terms of when the snag does happen, right? We do provide the support for Rocky. So you can, ask our team and our support team, like, hey, I'm running into this problem. And if you'd like support around that, you want to just have your entire infrastructure, everything on one operating system, everything supported by one company who knows what they're doing, CIQ, then easy breezy. We have answered so many questions for the community in that department. So,
And it doesn't have to be CentOS. Anything that's enterprise Linux. If you want to move from any of the enterprise Linuxes to Rocky, you want to work with CIQ, that we can help you with that too. Now, don't call Rose and ask if we can move a CentOS 5 machine to Rocky 9. That's a little more challenging. Could probably help you, but that's a whole different story.
Well, if by helping you mean we'll stand behind the bulletproof glass and laugh at you while you try and do it.
Maybe. There's strategies and ways to do it. We just don't suggest it.
There are. It just takes some time, one little thing at a time. It is possible. It is possible, and we are happy to support you. So I don't think we have any other questions. Was there anything else that we left out?
I don't think so. I think it's just important to make sure you're doing config management and automation as you go through this. I mean, if you're investing the time and the money to make a move, go ahead and invest the time and money to make sure that you are future-proofing yourself. This is going to happen again. Hopefully it's down the road and we're all retired, but it's going to happen to somebody. And if you get this dumped in your lap, do you really want to do that to the next person in line? So automate.
Okay. I feel like we need to have a little, I don't even know what it is, but something. Our marketing team is going to have something where we can yell automation and then something happens.
That'd be cool.
Like that. Automation. No, that's like freaky and scary.
Maybe.
But it was fun. Yes, we were happy to chat with you about that as well. And just like food for thought, it's specifically Ansible automation, correct?
I prefer Ascender, but yes, based on Ansible. Yes.
Well, but Ascender doesn't really work if you're not familiar with.
If you're not using Ansible, absolutely.
Right?
And I mean,
yeah.
At the end of the day, I would love people to use Ascender and Ansible for everything. That's my preference. Doesn't have to be. I mean, if you're using other tools, there's plenty out there. Sol, Puppet, Chef. use any of them. Just make sure you're using one. It just makes life easier, especially at scale.
Yeah, that is amazing to me as well when we talk to people. Do you remember that one, like the guy who was in charge of security? And he was like, I'm like, well, what happens when you have to do these like security audits? He's like, well, every 6 months for about 3 weeks, I just run around with my hair on fire.
Yes. And
And
he's the one that everybody hates, and they don't like it when they come to their cube or their office and they ask questions. I mean, they immediately get the eye roll. It's sad. Nobody wants to talk to that guy. We want to help you not have to talk to each other, and that way the relationship is friendly and everybody likes everybody.
right. And so like that's one of the cool parts about having at least a little pieces of automation in place where a lot of this you could just get the reports and get everything you need from the environment without having to go and like bother people and have them run the reports for you and all of that stuff. So yes, very exciting. Saves lots of time. I mean, imagine that poor guy. He'd still have a full head of hair.
Probably. Or he wouldn't be this gray.
Oh, that's awesome. All right, you guys. So definitely reach out to CIQ, CIQ.com. You can also leave a comment or a message like down here in the comments if you have a question or you want us to reach back out to you. We check our comments periodically because there is an automation, boom, that when a comment comes in, somebody gets an email. So how cool is that? All right. And again, we would love to chat with you. Zane, thank you so much for being here and being so knowledgeable about everything that we're doing and what the customers need to kind of help them move to the next level. Appreciate your time and energy.
Yeah, thank you. It's always fun.
Always a pleasure. All right, you guys, we'll see you at CIQ.com. Come talk to us about Rocky, automation, CentOS. We love it. All right. Have a great day.
Bye, everybody.